Okay, I think we have live on Facebook also.
Yes.
Good morning to everyone. Pleasure having you here on this lovely, bright and sunny morning in Hyderabad. I hope it is same all around. And I hope that in North India also it's not that sultry and sweaty early in the morning. A wonderful set of panelists here and warm audience who is here. Let's start now. The topic for today is how online education has changed the way of learning for the school kids or the school children. This is a very apt subject. Actually, what happened was very recently I joined a startup called Skill Sutras, which is into children education through online media, basically an edutech company. And I said, this is one of the best things one can do in the current times, wherein we can actually make difference to lives of a lot of kids who are now not able to attend offline classes. When we did a survey of the market, what we realized was there are enough number of organizations, institutions, and individuals who are training or who are taking classes on curriculum-based syllabus. So what we decided was let's move away from this, and then we moved into areas where children needed to be inculcated with skills. Like there are subjects like entrepreneurship for youngsters. There is fun finance or finance for children, or fintech as we would like to call it. And there are other things which are also kind of liked by parents and children, are coding and also robotics. So as we went along our journey of last 3 months, we realized that there is a lot of scope. There are a number of players, but there's a lot of scope. And when the co-founders sat with me, the six of them and me, we sat together, we realized that despite the market being kind of saturated, there's still a lot of scope, and there's still niche areas where we can actually move in and make a difference to the lives of children. And towards this, what we did was we decided to have a three-pronged approach, wherein we approached the schools, we approached the parents, and also we approached the CSR organizations, wherein we could make a difference to people who are marginalized, and also who do not have the access and resources to undergo these kind of courses. So towards this, we started off our work, and then we realized that we need to also discuss and bring out lessons that Skill Sutras in particular, and of course the environment in general, can learn and imbibe in their journey towards training children. So we are six of the co-founders, and I am mentoring them. We have people from all across all the spectrums of life. We have an IIM alumni. We have I am from the armed forces. We have entrepreneurs on board. So it's a mix and match of all people who come from all spheres of life, with more than 100 man years of experience in entrepreneurship. K12 domain is also very strong with us, and then we decided now we will make a difference, and the next generation of youngsters who come in, we will actually make a difference to their lives. So towards this is a background to the webinar. And then what we did was we tried to find the right mix of panelists, because we wouldn't like one particular approach to the solution or the problem. So we have a varied and very learned panelists who are available with us. So let me start with basic introductions. Just before that, what we can do is we will have a session of about 1 hour to 1 hour, 10 minutes of speaking, and we will also keep some time for question answers, and also to discuss as to what is the way ahead for this kind of education. What I would suggest is Sachin, who is helping me out with the conduct of webinar, will note the questions and also throw them to me as and when we feel it's appropriate, and I will direct these questions towards the concerned panelist, the most suitable panelist for a particular kind of question. We will route it to that gentleman or the lady. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, I think I've already briefed. Basically, my background is I've worked with Air Force for 24 years, then opted out of service, took a premature retirement, and joined the United Nations for about 3 years. Then I headed a Micromax plant in Hyderabad for about 4 years, and now, based on my interaction with the government, I've been assigned to Telangana government, and I work in the area of industrial promotions. basically encouraging entrepreneurs and industrialists to come and invest in Telangana. And also, I am very passionate about startups. That's the reason why I'm here with you today, promoting or mentoring Skill Sutras. Coming to the panelists, we have Ms.Sridevi Rao, a very learned and experienced educator. Primarily, she's got a lot of experience in K-12 education. She's a chairman and managing director of a education firm in Hyderabad. She's also served abroad in Riyadh as a vice principal for over a decade. And in India, she's worked with Bharati Vidya Bhavan School. As far as her professional qualifications are concerned, she's got tremendous experience also. She's an alumni of ISB, where they conduct a Women Entrepreneurs Program. She's also been to IIM Bangalore for a leadership program and has a MA in Public and Personal Management from Osmania University. Prior to that, she's done her BSc from St. Francis, one of the best colleges of Hyderabad, and also she's a B.Ed from Annamalai University. Warm welcome, ma'am. Welcome to the discussion today.
Thank you very much, Suryakant. Thank you.
Coming to the next panelist, we have Mr. Sumit Prakash. I had the honor and pleasure of meeting him last week, of course, on online and virtually. He's a director of a education trust and a very, very entrenched organization in Bihar, wherein it looks after the needs of education of children from two spectrums. One is kind of affluent kids who study in one of the schools, and he also looks after underprivileged children in rural areas of Patna, and ensures that they get good education and they settle down as good human beings and good individuals in later part of life. As far as education is concerned, he's passed out of Scindia School, Gwalior, a wonderful organization. I have a lot of friends who have passed out of this place and who are in armed forces. So I can vouch for this school that it's one of the best schools in India. He's got a PG diploma in advertisement and marketing and communications from Mumbai. And he's also a master's in business administration. As far as work is concerned, he's worked in Mumbai for about 4 years, and then he's moved to Melbourne. And thereafter, he completed his master's degree and moved back to India primarily because of his passion to make a difference to this country. And he's been running a school since 2008. Welcome, sir. Welcome on board.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Next, we have Ms. Palak Tiwari, basically educator. She's a nationally acclaimed parenting professional, director of Little Kingdom chain of schools. And she's also director of Kangaroo Kids Preschool, Gwalior. She is director of Billabong High International School, and also an education evangelist of India 2019, well recognized and published person. She's been honored by Indian Women Convention, and she's got a number of awards to her credit. In fact, we had requested her and removed some awards because otherwise about 45 minutes of our discussion would have gone in explaining the awards and honors she had. I'm sorry we couldn't put in everything here, ma'am, but then we understand and we realize you are one of the most eligible panelists for this discussion. As far as education is concerned, primarily she's got bachelor's in electronics, and also she's completed her master's in mass communication. Then she's pursuing a certificate course in child psychology. And we expect you to contribute in this aspect also when we discuss the effect of psychology on kids when they go online from an offline course curriculum. Welcome on board, ma'am. Pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Coming to Sachin, Sachin is a very close friend. He is one of the co-founders of Skill Sutra. In fact, he is the one who requested me to come in as a host of this program. Otherwise, he was supposed to host it and I was supposed to be on the other side. But then he realized, or he convinced me that I should be the host and he would be a panelist because he's got immense knowledge on offline and online course curriculum. especially when it's related to the Indian context. A very experienced person. He's an alumni of IIM, 19 plus years of experience in varied areas of operations, rural marketing, education, banking, sales and development, the works. So that's why he's one of the most sought after and the most precious resource of Skill Sutra, so to say. Currently, as I've already covered, he's co-founder and director of Skill Sutras and also Wise Mind Ventures, which again is collaborating with Skill Sutras for providing resources and also hand-holding Skill Sutras till the Skill Sutra, so to say, grows up and can go on its own. He is also a president of Next Education 2017. As far as education is concerned, I've already briefed you. He's an alumni of IIM Lucknow 2001 batch. Prior to that, he did his Bachelor of Engineering in Electronics from Nagpur University. Welcome on board, Sachin.
Thank you.
So that's as far as our panelists are concerned. You can't see the screen. There are so many audiences that the size of the picture goes small. Now, I think what we should do is we can now start our discussion. As I've already covered, for the people who have joined in a little late, the format will be, I have formulated certain questions or certain inputs which I shall be giving on to my panelists, and they would, based on their experience, speak on the particular subject. Audience, if they have any question, we will answer it at the end of the talk of the particular panelist, or if it is a question which involves not a single panelist, but across the spectrum, then we will probably field it towards the end of the discussion so as to keep the discussion focused. And towards the end, we would probably request 2 or 3 or even all 4 panelists to provide input on a particular question if it so demands. I think we'll start with Sumit ji first, because in my interaction with him, I realized that he's got past experience in a particular area. And that's why probably I think I'll pitch my first question to Sumit ji. Based on our topic and based on the environment which is existing today in the COVID active world and post-COVID world, there are a lot of changes which are going to come up. So what are the challenges, Sumit ji, do you think that are likely to be faced in online education delivery? Since you have 2 schools already up and running, you're facing problems in this. My question to you is, how do you think, or what are the challenges you think are already being faced or are likely to be faced in delivery of education in this new normal?
Right. Thank you so much, sir. Good morning to everyone. Before I get into, I guess, answering that question, that what are the challenges, one needs to clearly define what our objective is as either as a parent or as an educational institute, what we need to deliver. Why do we need our children or students to study? What is that you want them to learn? And one simple, I guess, in one single line, if I may say, we want to have better citizens and them being employable in the 21st century. Now, if I keep my goal very clear, that helps me define what kind of solution I need to get into. The other thing which also I believe is pertinent to this discussion is if I quickly summarize what the current education system is. So if I look into schools, the brick and mortar school, what we've been running for the last so many years, the one thing you find is the inconsistency in the teaching methodology in the teachers. So in the same school or in a state or in a country, each topic could be taught in a very, very different way. So it completely depends upon the skill set of a teacher, how well the delivery of that particular topic can be. The second thing which drives all the schools to a great extent, I can't generalize and say that everyone does that, but to the great extent is the rote learning. This is a system which has been ingrained in us. That's the way we grew up when we were being taught. And that's what the system requires. The reason being, even when you need to go to a higher education, so when you pass out your school and you need to get into a college, it's a cutoff mark. So for example, if you need to get into Delhi University, so you need to have a certain cutoff mark, which is say 98% or 99%. And that's what is based on completely on rote learning, because that's what is the marks maximization. The third thing is about schools are driven by, in that case, by curriculum and syllabus. Prima facie, because that's the objective right now, is to get good marks and to get into good colleges. And therefore, the school drives its whole system based on this, that we need to maximize our marks. The third thing being, or the fourth thing being, in each class, which is highly populated, so each class can have anything between 50 to 70 kids. I've known for schools which have 75 kids. And it's absolutely impossible for a teacher, as good he or she may be, to deliver a very, very in-depth and effective discussion or communication. I'm sorry.
Can you just put off your mic? Okay.
Participant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, Sumit, please go ahead.
Oh, that's all right. That's okay. So the last point I was trying to make was the number of kids in a class, and if it's a large number of children, it makes it very, very difficult for a teacher to be effective in what she or he is doing. Now, there are obviously good things about the school too, the physical school. So one of the biggest attributes is about the peer-to-peer learning. Children learn how to be a team player, or they learn leadership qualities. The physical aspect of learning using labs or kits, collaborative learning, very, very important, because that's how you perform in real life. You need to, if you need to solve certain problems or issues when you're in the work, you work in a collaboration. You don't work in isolation. Sports, discipline, you spend time away from your family. So if it's a day school, obviously you are about 6-7 hours away from your parents or siblings, and you learn how to be independent. If you're in boarding school, like I was, you spend 6 months or 5 months at a stretch staying away from family, and you learn all these skills of being independent, how to manage yourself, how to take challenges on. And obviously, last but not the least, is the parents' breathing time when the children are away from home. And that's a huge thing. It's not, I'm not being negative when I say this, but it's a healthy thing. It's healthy for the parents, even the kids are out at home, and the children are studying or attending school. Now, this is the current situation. What I speak of before COVID started was, this is a typical school how we ran. Now, the challenge is, what a typical challenge which comes up when we talk about online education is the pedagogy, is the way you deliver online. Now, a very, very big, I think, I wouldn't say an issue or a concern, but a very big problem is that a lot of institutes or a lot of people believe that delivering the way they delivered in a class in a physical environment is the same way to deliver in an online environment. Now, it's just like saying that I put a new cover on a book and the book changes. It's just a platform. The platform is from being a physical school versus an online school, but also the way you deliver completely changes. Now, in a physical school, the way we have been doing it for last, like I said, so many years, we were teaching, we were teachers. But the moment you go in an online environment, you become a facilitator. You facilitate teaching. The reason being, the amount of time a child spends on a screen and the amount of time you have your engagement on a screen is far lesser than as compared to a physical place. And therefore, the pedagogy, the way you conduct a class in an online environment, that's a huge challenge for the teachers. The challenge gets multiplied if you haven't been trained in it, you haven't been skilled in it. Now, obviously, like I said, most of us, which I guess most of us sit in the same age group, we have been taught ourselves, or we have been brought up using the rote learning methodology or that kind of education system. So we are very much ingrained with it. Now, to go to being a facilitator, that needs a completely, overwhelming of ourselves. So that's a huge, one big challenge I feel there. Other challenges, obviously, the internet connection. As we speak, it's about 700 million people have access to internet. Now, that having access to internet, but having internet which is capable and sustainable of having an online education are two different things. So as you go from a tier 1 city to tier 2 to tier 3, obviously and depending on the population size of each state, your bandwidth of your internet becomes unstable more and more. So as compared to a place where like Patna or a Bihar, which is very, very populated state, now the bandwidth in its peak time will have a very, very unstable connection as compared to a lesser population. And that plays a huge role. The hardware itself. Now, to have access to a hardware which allows you to communicate, so like I'm communicating with you at the moment, it's easier because I can have a smartphone and I can simply communicate with you. But when you talk about online education, and if you're talking about my ability or a student's ability to type something, that means you need a tablet or a laptop at least. Now, as research says, as of now, so if you reverse the population and the accessibility to hardware, if you go to tier 3 cities or tier 2 cities, 60% of the population still rely on smartphones. You never needed one. Mostly people did not need a laptop or a tablet for education purpose. We were never expected to have. But now as we shift, that's a huge challenge. And this challenge is obviously gets accentuated to a larger degree when you start going to the hinterland of India, back of beyond. You don't have such devices. Like I spoke about earlier, the teaching skills. So teachers are not exposed to being facilitators. We love to teach, we love to speak, we love to say X plus Y equals this. I don't allow a child to come into class and I say, all right, I have a problem. I need to hire a car and I need to go from X place to Y place, but I can't figure out how much to pay, how much will it cost me? Can you help me solve this issue? Now, if I put a practical problem in front of a child and ask them to solve it for me without giving an algebraic expression, the child applies that knowledge and then reverse engineers and then understands what an algebraic expression basically means. Now again, it's not between the fact that we are wrong or right, but that's the way we did it always, right? So these are the few challenges which I believe are currently inherent with the online education, because we suddenly came up in the scenario where we were pushed into going online rather than being an offline scenario. I hope this kind of gives you an overview to your questions, sir.
Absolutely. Actually, in fact, it raises two more questions. One is the pros and cons, and the second one is whether the current technology is fit as of now for the online education or not. But then I would first request you to kind of let us know a little more on the pros and cons from your perspective of the online education, which has now taken root in across the world, not only in India.
Sure. So let me start with the cons first, because that's one of the challenges we have. Now, like I said earlier, our objective needs to be clear. We need to have students who are, able citizens and they're employable in the 21st century. And therefore, the cons part of it is that the biggest challenge we have in today's market scenario is our change management. Our change management being, are we ready to accept such a big change? So starting from the government, then you have the school management, you have the teachers, you have the parents, and then you have the students. Now, this change is not something which you can switch off and switch on and say, all right, tomorrow you're ready to go online. And therefore, to educate all these stakeholders in different parameters, I'm sure other panelists will touch upon these things and will go in detail with you. But that's a huge challenge we have. The other thing is the students' online concentration. And if you see the research, the maximum number of failures of online content has been because the students don't have that kind of ability or the screen time presence to be able to motivate themselves to go through the whole day educating themselves. And that's a huge challenge. And I'm sure other panelists will touch upon or explain you the psychology behind such things. But that's a huge challenge. For the parents themselves, again, it comes about exposure. If I, as a parent, myself is not convinced or exposed to such kind of a platform, it's very, very difficult to allow my child to do this. And I keep hearing this very often in my urban school as well as my rural school, which I run, is that my child spends a lot of time online. What is he doing? Now, if I am unable as a parent to monitor my child's progress and understand what values the online system brings to a child, and if I'm not convinced myself, I don't allow my child to spend the time to learn and educate themselves online. That's a huge challenge in itself. Teachers, from another stakeholder, from teachers' perspective, the challenge is they're not equipped. They're not skilled in it. The exposure is not for them to teach or facilitate teaching in that pedagogy style. I'm still a teacher who was teaching 6 months ago on a hardcore classroom where I went, opened my book, and I taught. But suddenly I'm being put into a situation where I need to facilitate teaching. And that's a huge learning curve. So if you're a smart teacher and if you're very skilled, then obviously you've learned this. But if you're on the average side or below average, then it's a really, really uphill task suddenly to change the way you teach people. And that brings in the second part of a teaching skill, which is the content. Now, if you get the content to what you need to teach a child from off the shelf, and because as a teacher, I've not created it, so my buying into that content is very, very limited. And therefore, I'm not convinced, and then I just blurt it out or I just read it out to a child. But if I have to create content myself and then teach a child, that brings another skill set that am I capable to build a content which is feasible for an online platform. So these are all the challenges or the cons of an online system at the moment. Now the positives of it, it allows the system, when I speak to you right now, or if I'm facilitating a class on a one-to-one basis, the student is looking at me as one teacher, one facilitator. And when I give the work on an online platform, which is an LMS, which is a learning management system, not a Zoom, not a Google Meet or any other conference call, that's not a learning management system. When I use a learning management system, it allows me to deal with a child on a one-to-one basis. So it's not like in a big classroom that I'm dealing with 30, 40 kids. It allows me to deal on one-to-one. The second best thing about online platform is the audio-visual part of it. Now, I have a 3-year-old child, and she picks up the number of words she picks up and the number of concepts she picks up on her own without me teaching her. It's just amazing. And that's what kind of reinforces it when the children grow up. We don't go and teach them, how to learn to walk. They just learn, right? They fall, they see, they analyze it, they again try and walk, they catch something and they say, oh, I can actually walk because I can hold something. And then they move on. This part of application of the mind is something which tells you very inherent to a child that they can learn on their own. We just need to facilitate. And an online environment allows us to facilitate in a much better way. On each topic, if you pick up any topic, and if you are in an online environment, I can give multiple papers on it. I can give you multiple videos on it. And I can recreate a scenario where I can bring in multiple thought process about a single topic. And that allows a child to have a far more rich understanding of the same topic because I'm able to bring in so many videos, so many research papers, so many papers on the same topic. And it gives a very, very holistic learning.
I think we've lost contact with Sumit. Probably he'll come back. Yeah, he's here. Sumit, your mic is muted. Oh, we still can't hear you. The mic, you'll have to unmute the mic. It's still showing muted here.
Okay, I'm back.
I can hear you now. Back.
Sorry, for some reason it just muted me on its own. And so that's one of the challenges again, technology challenges. One doesn't realize what goes wrong on Sunday without anybody's, So sorry, the last one I was talking about paperless part of it. Now that's the current need as we go through this massive climate change and as we go through these major things which are affecting our day-to-day life, and it will get accentuated as we go forward. Our ability to work on a paperless environment, to work seamless across the boundaries, because that's what real life would be. I'll be working with somebody sitting in Scandinavia, or somebody sitting in Seattle, or somebody sitting in Hyderabad. So I need to be paperless. And that's what the more we do with the kids from a much younger age, because that needs to be part of their culture. It's not something which you learn Sunday, you get up one day and you go to office and say, all right, today I need to go paperless from today on. It's something which becomes a part of you. And that's a great positive, I think, impact of an online environment. It also, and again, these are not in totality. That means what I mean to say is that doesn't mean that we close physical school and completely go online. It's a mix. You find something which are extremely positive and beneficial for online, and there's something which are very, very positive about the offline environment. You need to bring that balance. You need to put that balance in place so that the kids get the best of both the worlds, the stakeholders get best of the world, the parents find the best of the worlds, they find breathing time, the teachers get to utilize a system which can be far more adaptive, far more evaluative in nature, and far more giving a lot of value to the student. So that's about the pros and cons in a nutshell, I think.
We lost contact with you for a couple of seconds. So that brings me to the next part of the question, which is the current technology setup at the home, that's at the parent's home, adaptable or fit for online education as it is today?
So I think I've already answered that in a brief earlier. Like we say, we have internet access to about 700 million people in India, but that is subjective to the fact what time of the day you're using, what kind of hardware you're using, and what kind of stability of the internet you have. So it's a big challenge without saying that. And that's where you need, so you can mitigate these risks by, suppose if you talk about a school which is completely Wi-Fi setup. So if you're able to make a school which is very well ingrained with technology and very well set up in a rural area, at least what you can do is it becomes like a funnel. You can then pull in all your students and surrounding areas to come to school and derive the benefit of this online platform. And you can teach so many things online, coding, robotics, social media marketing, data entry, data analysis, because you can bring all these kids to a place which works in a perfect scenario because it has all the internet set up there. If you went from house to house, allowing them to access it from home, there are challenges. Depending on what city you're talking about, what kind of place you're talking about, all these issues are still there. And the hardware itself, I think government needs to really step in, and if it's talking about NEP to be implemented and this kind of pedagogy to be enrolled out in all schools and different for the students to benefit, the hardware availability and the internet access really needs to be worked upon and made sure that it's easily, comfortably available to everyone to derive the benefit from it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sumit, for your wonderful insights into these aspects of online teaching. This brings me to the next question, which I think we'll address this question to Sridevi, which is now we've tried to understand, and we know now that there are facilitators, there's a medium, and there's an end student at the other end. But now what we need to understand is what are the mental and psychological impacts on school kids during this online education? Not only on the school kids, what are the effect on the management of the schools? What are the effect on the teachers, the parents, and the children? I think this needs also to be brought out because it's an important aspect. Suddenly you're changing over from an online class where the youngster goes there, sits for the entire day and comes back in the evening. And now suddenly he's sitting at home throughout the day, attending online classes. Parents are working at home. So it's a very complicated environment that exists at homes today, and also for the management and teachers who are not directly exposed to the students. Now they're just speaking to a screen or to a camera, and the entire day goes like this. So there has to be some kind of impact psychologically or emotionally. I would request Sridevi to kindly take on this question and try and bring out the important aspects of this part of online education.
Thank you, Suryakant. When we are discussing about the impact of online education, the merits and the demerits, for a while, just for a thought, if all of us ask a question to ourselves, that what if we did not have the option of online education during this pandemic, when so many children are out of the school? It's quite a difficult question to answer. It's difficult to imagine. So let us try and understand how the online education is also helping for the learning to be continued. We are all living in a privileged era if the pandemic would have occurred 50 years back, what would be the scenario of the learning continuity for the students? So we are privileged that we are able to facilitate this sort of learning for with the help of online education. As Mr. Prakash has highlighted the merits and the challenges of online education, now we are at a very initial stage. It's like a caterpillar, and this will surely emerge as a butterfly. The question itself of trying and understanding what are the merits, what are the challenges, what are the psychological impacts, this itself will definitely allow us to design a solution of how to make it possible in the schools in future, how to digitalize the schools, how to have a combined scenario of the regular teaching, the live classrooms, and the online teaching. So I feel quickly the quality of education will be enhanced in this scenario of online education. Coming to the psychological impacts on the managements, what I feel we could probably bifurcate into what was the scenario before and after, before we chose the online medium. I think during the summer vacation, when everybody was experiencing the lockdown, the nerve-wracking question for all the management is, how are we going to deal with the situation? How are we going to ensure that there is learning happening in the school for the students? How are we going to, what sort of tools are we going to choose? What are the pedagogical practices that we have to advocate so that teachers will be efficient on screen? And what are the procedures that we have to follow? What are the learning management systems? What are the merits of it? What could be the predicted challenges that might occur? How are we going to deal with it? Will the parents support us? Will the parents support the students? All these were the questions that were pondering to all the school managements, and each one of them have chosen whatever is convenient to them, considering the fact that they have to carry the image of the credibility that they have already created for themselves. Now, that is before the, before we chose the LMS. That is what sort of an academic platform that we are going to function. Once we have started off with the online education, there are other situations like Mr. Sumit has told, that the internet glitches that we might have, that we might experience, how well the teacher will, what is the communication tool that she is going to use, what is the content, what are the resources that she is going to use, and are there any issues on a daily basis. You have many live lectures happening on a daily basis across various levels, right from the young learners till the senior secondary level. And so many live lectures are happening, there might be some issues that are coming up, whether it is technical, whether the end user, the students, whether it has been effective, what are their experiences. So every small issue that comes onto the table gets utmost importance. So there is a huge pressure and it is a huge responsibility for the schools to conduct these online classes and make it very effective and to be appreciated by the parents, and not only appreciation, to achieve the objectives of learning. How are the learning outcomes? What is the curriculum that is going to be advocated? How is it going to be taught? What sort of a fruitfulness it will have at the end. So all these are a huge challenge for the management. Coming to the teachers. The teachers they hardly got any time, but I think we have to appreciate the spirit of adaptability of the teachers, as we cannot replicate the physical live classroom structure online. In a physical classroom, the teacher, when she's transacting her information, she will definitely have her own gestures, her personality, her aura, her techniques, the emotional connect that she will have with her students. All these play a vital role for the transaction to be very effective and successful in a live classroom. But when the teacher goes online, the content that is going to be used as a visual aid, as a facilitator, how well she understands and how well she transacts, what is the practice that she adopts, what are the opportunities that she gives to the students to socialize, How does she establish that this sort of an emotional connect to be at least making the child happy? What could be the unstated needs of the child while transacting a particular topic? To sense this and to live up to those expectations, the teacher has many challenges, but I think they are performing well. The initial hiccups are reasonably now, they have overcome that and they have come into the platform. Initial stage, it was, they had the teething problems, but now they're performing very well. I must say that. Apart from the transaction, the challenges, the psychological pressure that the teachers have is, it's not like anymore Gurukul. It's like Sishyas. They are going to the homes and they have to perform on screen. So what happens is, the teacher, however good, whatever experience she has, whatever visual aids she has, how very well she has planned her class, the pressure of being judged, the merits being judged by the parents will definitely have a pressure on the teacher's performance. So this is not going to be, this is quite a big task, a Herculean task for a teacher to handle. Apart from that, that is about the profession. Because of the pandemic, all the teachers, the schools, the staff members are working from home. They are functioning from home. Some of them are part of joint families. Some of them have little children. So, the domestic assistance that they get, the responsibilities that they have, which are heightened during the pandemic, to balance between the work and their personal life is a huge challenge for them, because the preparatory hours have increased for the teacher. That is, they have to understand what is a multimedia resource that is available, what is suitable for their transaction, what sort of a structure they can create, what sort of questions or what sort of responses they have to seek from the children. All these preparation has put a teacher, has made the extended hours of the teacher enormous. So that's again a pressure for the teacher to, perform at their best, the teachers to be at their best. But I must say that they are getting appreciation. Schools which have chosen the correct LMS, who would have trained the teachers, who are reviewing on an ongoing basis of what are the best practices. I think teachers are doing very well. Coming to the psychological impact on the students, our heart goes for them, because the students, they're missing their schools, their playgrounds, their PE classes, their extracurricular classes, the little chats that they have during the transitions of the classes, the companionship, and the connect with their friends and the teachers. All this has a huge impact on the children. And then now they are isolated at home. So the impact on the students, the online education for various age group, it actually, because of the disruption of the learning, it varies from different age groups, the young learners and to the senior secondary level. There again, we can categorize the children who are extroverts, who are very expressive, who are friendly, who need companionship. They are missing. But what happens is, if the resource, the web resource that the teacher is using, this might be, if the teacher is transacting in a compelling manner, giving them opportunities to socialize, to express themselves, if they are put in a discussion forum, I think many of the children are enjoying that. So that is the positive side of online education. But for the young learners, or for the children who need, who prefer space of, their own space, their private space and the regular classrooms, what I feel, those children are performing well also, because they get some time to think, to respond, and they're not caught up in the pressure of performance. That they're receptive, they are performing well. The children who enjoy solitary learning, they're performing well also. Though it is not easy, they're performing well. To the young learners, because the teacher and the student emotional connect is very weak during the online education, the parents have to assist them. So for some children, where the parent is sitting beside to facilitate, to make them understand what the teacher is, just to support them, the children are feeling happy. The teacher on the screen and the parent who's adjacent to them, both of them helping them to respond or to process. The children who are enjoying also, because for children, if we just try and understand, learning is a social experience for them. It is not only learning the content, but they want to be recognized. They want to be appreciated. They want to express. And they want to also see their friends. They want to talk to their friends. So if the emotional support and if there is a conducive environment that is created through the online medium also, to a certain extent, the children and the young learners are able to perform. The flip side of it is they are under thorough scrutiny. Some of the children, because of expectations that the parents might have to perform, that is to process quickly and answer the teacher. You have a new term now existing, the helicopter parenting. Like you want your parents to, the parents are ambitious, it's good to be ambitious, but how are we going to help our children? That clarity is very important. What sort of an interaction we should have, what sort of a support we should have, what should we give to the students? This is very important. So sometimes the children, if they're under this thorough scrutiny, under the wings of the parents constantly, it might create an anxiety. And in various groups, the young learners, they might be cranky, they might be withdrawn, they might not be able to articulate their stress or anxiety levels, but there will be some sort of a behavioral changes in these children. In the middle and the high school, maybe the children, because of the limited hours of the online education, we need to be conscious about the screen time that the children are experiencing. So because of the limited hours and not going outside, no physical exercise, no privilege of going out and playing, this will impact their happiness. So the psychological impact of online education being limited, unlike the regular school. This in the middle and the high school, probably sometimes some children might be, again, get into an argumentative mode, be extra sensitive, or not being accommodative to the other person's thoughts or interactions. They will be withdrawn. So these could be some negative aspects of students that are who are experiencing about online education. But what is on the greener side is, if the teacher is making the class, the transaction compelling, structuring her class in a proper manner where she can devote some time to facilitate that socialization apart from the transaction, and then acknowledging the students and the homework being very moderated, and then incorporating some activities where the child can easily, perform, present their work. These from the teacher's side, and the parents, a good interaction, a qualitative interaction, understanding the learning styles, the strengths, the challenges of their own children, and then not only qualitative interactions, the quantitative time that you spend, the emotional support, the feel-good attitude in a structured manner that you create for your students. This can help the children to actually deal with this situation during the pandemic. That is when they're experiencing this online education, when they're missing out their friends, they're missing out the regular school. So that could be worked out. Coming to the impact on the parents. On the parents' side, what we have to understand is all the parents are ambitious and want the children to learn, to continue the learning. But some of the parents might have the challenges of providing the devices, the appropriate devices for the online education to be effectively, for the effective response of the child. And at the same time, there might be some parents who are working from home, both the parents working, and the domestic responsibilities during the pandemic heightened, making time for their children, to monitor the children homeworks, sitting with the children, whether the children are understanding, and making this learning to facilitate or, reinforce the concepts that are already taught on the screen. These are some challenges that the parents also are facing. But I must say, now, after 1.5 months or 2 months of this online education, parents are also able to acknowledge, see a bigger picture of the importance of online education, that this is the best option in the current situation. And we need to now sort out the things, and we need to support. There is a thought process that this medium also is going to be effective. This sort of a thought process has occurred in the parents also. So what I feel is the online education, this sort of an impact, the pros and the cons, this is definitely going to be, this pandemic has suddenly put everybody into this medium, but is going to be an important integral component of the school education in future. So this is all about what is happening right away before. But if we see the psychological impact that is going to be in the future in the school education, the combination of the physical infrastructure of the school and the combination, the digital, the resource, the multimedia resource, teachers also, because they are facilitators now, they would like to have the multimedia content as a resource because they understand the merits of the resource. They would earlier they were preferring more of the talk and chalk, but now most of them understand the value of having a very powerful visual aid to engage, to make the students observe, analyze, and achieve their learning objectives. So from the teacher's side, I think it will be a welcoming sign. And for the schools also, in locations where there is the competence of the teachers or the teachers' availability being a very big challenge, I think the online medium will be a great support for them. Expert faculty can be hired, even from a distant level. They can function from a remote place, video conferencing. So the connect between, geographically from a school to a remote place, I think the schools will take the online education as one of the powerful mediums to, design the strategies and implement them very well. What I feel is when we keep talking about some countries being hugely successful in their education sector, and we talk about what are the various factors, the social infrastructure, the competence of the teachers, and the equipment in the school, all these. But if the online education, it breaks all the barriers, we can definitely customize those strategies according to the needs of the different locations and complement the teacher's competence and the facilities in different locations. Customize all the strategies, whether it is an urban school or the rural school. This is going to be one of the powerful medium. That is what I foresee for online education. Schools will be empowered and we will be able to achieve the objectives of what we want to actually contribute to the student community when they pass out the secondary level or the senior secondary level. That's what I foresee. Because when we talk about augmented reality, artificial intelligence, virtual science experiments, virtual field trips, I think it connects a child from a remote place to the distant world. And the understanding and the awareness will make a child, into a capable, then competent individual. I think all the schools now, it is the right time where the education policy also has been released. And I have never seen these sort of intense discussions about the education transformation, reformation. So it happened at the right time where everybody values it, where the earlier system is losing its relevance. How do we really take it forward? How do we make our students, the children who can, economically be very productive to build up their livelihoods that are sustainable? And how do we make them very competent? How do we make them, individually taking care of their well-being mentally and physically. I think, and being an asset to their own families, to themselves, and to the community. I think the online education is going to be a wonderful medium for the schools and for the world, I feel. This is what I feel about the impact psychologically.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Actually, I wanted to ask a question, another one on parents' engagement, but then you stole my thunder and you've already covered that in your talk.
Yes.
Yeah, so now let's next move on to Palak ma'am. Palak ma'am is done a lot of studies in the area of new educational policy which are coming up. During our interaction, we realized that. So first question I'd like to pose to Palak ma'am is, ma'am, we have this new NEP or new education policy which has come up about a week and a half back. What are your initial thoughts based on what you could read till now and what is available in the environment? And especially so when it concerns life skills. Basically, NEP with life skills is what I would like you to throw some light on.
Thank you so much for the question. Before we talk about new education policy, I think we must, I am very sure all of us know about the document called as National Curriculum Framework 2005. So that curriculum in the first paragraph itself said that a child comes to school, to find the purpose of his or her life. So I think NEP is a extension to National Curriculum Framework, which talks about execution of, how it can be done. So I think what we need to concentrate as educationists or as a parent or any of the stakeholders, that we need to accept this fact that education is not about mark sheets. It's about how to handle life. So, and from here, I must pick the word life skill, because when you talk about handling life, so a skill set or an ability, which makes you more adaptive or gives you more of positive behaviors that enable the human to deal effectively with the demands and challenges of life, is termed as life skill. So when we talk about it, I think NEP is talking more about restructuring. Why they are talking about restructuring? Because I think scientifically it has been proved that 0 to 7 is the age wherein maximum brain development takes place, maximum synapses takes place. So because it has been agreed by the government also, and it is very evident that we need to make children ready for 21st century. So the milestones have changed. The way we have, empowered education. There was a research by UNICEF which said that children by 2030 will not. It will not be a question of unemployment. It will be a question of unemployed. Why? Because they will not have a skill set to get employed, because degrees are not going to serve anymore as the great just to enter any job. So I think that's what NEP also talks about. Emphasizing on the domains factor is one of the initiatives that NEP says that we must inculcate physical and motor, cognitive, socio-emotional, ethical, cultural and artistic literacy, numeracy, being bilingual, multilingual. So these are the things that NEP is speaking about, but to create a base for life skills, if there is no real life connect, which I also would add here, because I'm very sure a lot of educators are hearing to us, a lot of people who are going to execute this in their daily lives, amongst children are going to empower them. They're going to use some sort of knowledge. So rather than only talking about those domains, we are in the, we are facing a pandemic. There should be, we should be talking about environment and ecology. We should be talking about gender sensitivity. We should now be talking about design and technology, global dimensions, scientific inquiry. These are certain things with a real life connect will enable a child to see how to handle life in any kind of situation. Because I think 21st century or future is all about, it's not about only change, it's going to be about the rate of change that is increasing. So even the World Economic Forum now talks that the life skills that were needed in 2015 has changed when we talk about 2020. And why is that? Because we are going through such a high rate of change, and pandemic has given more acceleration to it. So now, what all things that a child should know before the child clears the K-12 model? So the child must be able to handle complex problems. So we have to understand how we can teach problem solving, and this cannot come if you start doing it from grade 6. It will have to be initiated from the preschool. And believe me, because I am an educationist myself, and I have been doing it. If you talk about problem solving from preschool, it definitely create thinkers. So now is the time when we need to talk about complex problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, people's management. As one of the panelists very beautifully said, that it's not about books. We need to go paperless. We need to talk about social attributes which a child used to come to school for. But for that, we as educators and parents, we need to empower our children about this very, very important fact that is all about people's management. We need to talk about how to cooperate and coordinate with each other. Emotional intelligence, as Sridevi also, highlighted this fact that it's not going to be only and only about, how we are, executing the whole thing. We need to take care of emotionally, balanced child. The major problem of, today's scenario that we have been witnessing such, empowered people, committing suicides or going in depression, having all the facets of life. Why? Because they were not able to manage the emotional, intelligence or emotions that they have in their lives. So education now needs to concentrate more on emotional intelligence. We need to talk about judgment and decision making, service orientation, negotiations, and cognitive flexibility. So these are the things which is going to enhance the quality of education and gradually quality of life. With all these big terms, I think it is very, very important that we all talk about real life connect. If we are not able to join real life connect to any kind of education that we're imparting, either online or blended learning or hybrid learning, whatever kind of learning that is going to take place, we need to make sure that we are writing a new era of education. If we are not able to establish a real life connect, like a very small thing, if I would say, we're not able to, explain the concept of need and want amongst our learners, I don't think we'll be able to justify NEP or NCF that, policymakers have been talking about. So I personally feel that emotional quotient, social quotient, adversity quotient, and critical quotient is the power that we need to generate from books to a facilitator or a mentor, and then push it to our learners and parents. So how I see life skills and NEP, that now government concentrating on the quality of life and trying to preach that life is a balance of learning, facing adversities, and creating opportunities is what education our children needs in 21st century. I hope I was able to put forward certain things that this.
SK Sharma, you're on mute. Can you unmute yourself?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am, you did, and it was very well covered. But then this NEP is still evolving. As far as the document is concerned, we already have it, but it will still take probably a couple of months for us to understand what it is in depth and how the government intends to operationalize it. So we're all still trying to understand this, but then definitely you covered the basics of how it is emerging and how it will affect all of us. But what has happened is, I have a question here which has emerged from Sridevi's talk. When she spoke about the stakeholders, one aspect which I think can be very well spoken about by you is, in this new normal, how can we empower the teachers? Like till recently, till March 22nd, teachers were in the control of the classroom. So to say, in the sense that they had absolute control as to how to plan the curriculum, how to execute it, and how children were permitted to, so to say, behave in this particular environment. But now they have lost this control, they have lost this command over the students. So how do you think we can empower the teachers in this new method of teaching or new method of education?
As you said, for NEP, yes, we all are, navigating through uncertainties. It definitely, lies at the bottom that how we execute it. And I'm very sure because people are working towards it. People are accepting the paradigm shift. So being a optimist, I think it will work out very well. Coming on to empowering the teachers, as one of the panelists very correctly said, that now teachers are no more teachers. We talk about either shikshika or we talk about facilitators. I would like to quote Elvin Toffler here. He said that the literates of 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write. They will be people, those who cannot relearn, learn, and unlearn. So this is the same situation that we as facilitators or mentors have to accept, that at this point of time, wherein our learners are digital natives and we are digital immigrants, we need to accept that the first thing for this kind of education is acceptance, that yes, there is a change and we need to upgrade ourselves, because our learners are quite active online. They know how to, because see, the whole model of education has come to TPACT. Now, TPACT is wherein we already had technology, we already had content available. Google was doubling up every 2 hours, and now it is doubling up every hour, I think. So only thing that is needed, as an educationist, is the pedagogical aspect, because Sridevi has very, very beautifully covered this concept, what all changes an educator or a mentor would need. So I would like to concentrate more on the pedagogical and methodological aspect of this question. If a teacher is not able to understand in what kind of structure or what kind of pedagogies or methodology should be applied to the content, then there will be no meaning to these kind of classes, whether we use LMS or whether we use any kind of system. What needs to be done is that a very, very structured system of education, which NEP also talks about, that it should be an outcome-based, objective and outcome-based education that should take place. So we need to map the outcomes I would say that we should be able to map as per each theme or as per each chapter and subject. We must be able to apply different kind of domains to each subject. Also that we have to make sure that we cater to each kind of learner. Yes, we can do one-to-one when we use such upgraded systems of online platform, but until and unless we concentrate again on saying that it should be a learner-based classroom and not an educator-centric classroom, until unless that happens, the opportunities given to the learner is maximized. we will not be able to justify this kind of education. Wherein, see, we all are in currently we are in a situation, we are preparing students for jobs in technologies that don't exist right now. And in order to solve problems that we do not even know our problems yet. So in that kind of situation where we are navigating through uncertainties, what I think that the educators should be very well versed with the pedagogies and methodologies to empower students, the acceptance that our learner is more and more aware of the content that is available. What he or she needs is a facilitator, who can take the child from unknown to known and again known to unknown. Otherwise, this exploration of the content is useless. So it will be again a book which was just rote memorized and given examinations. So models like KWHL, which we have been using in our pedagogies, have also, post COVID, that has also changed and has been upgraded. Earlier it was only, what the child knows, what he wants to know, how he wants to know, what will he learn. And now addition to it, it talks about what action will he take and what are the new questions that will arise. So, I think the teacher will need to be, or the educator needs to be prepared how they're going to deliver. There has to be a perspective, very clear perspective, how they're going to, connect to known to unknown and unknown to known. A lot of demonstrations will have to take place. We'll have to assess ourselves and then assess, learners, what has been taught and how much they have been able to reciprocate. We'll have to assign, we're talking about a lot of project-based education now. So we'll have to assign them certain things, which may not be only related to books or only debates or only group discussion, which talks about real life incidences, as Wing Commander was also talking about, that we need to make sure that if we do not give them real life aspects and real life situations, we should not be expecting answers or problem solving aspect from them. And also the last thing that I feel we need to concentrate is reflect. How the child is able to reflect all of this, what we are going to, educate them in their day-to-day life. So I think the whole of education, which was concentrating only on remember and understand of Bloom's taxonomy, is now talking about apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. So we're coming to a high orderly thinking. I think this is going to be a very, very important factor of writing a new era of education. And how we should do it, I think experts should be handling how to train the trainers, because if I give you an example of a real life, that if I have a heart problem, I will not go to a gynecologist or a physician. I will seek a help from a cardiologist. Similarly is the facet for education. We need to understand that education is handled by experts. We should be giving, chances to young educational, analysts or curriculum companies who are talking about, 21st century learners and 21st century educators. We must explore the best possible aspects of people who understand and accept education in this kind of scenario, to take a better platform. I think to sum it all up, there's a very famous book, that talks about 7 habits of effective people. So I think the whole thing summarizes to understand and then be ready to be understood. So as we are navigating through uncertainties, I think we as stakeholders, the important people, need to understand what are the changes, how we can navigate ourselves, what contribution we make is going to impact long term, and then we need to, take a step forward and empower our teachers with structured and scientifically designed curriculums and regular training sessions to update for methodologies and pedagogies that are going to be used in the upcoming education.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your insights, ma'am. Actually, just struck my mind. This is the first time after Industrial Revolution that the education system is taking a paradigm shift. From Industrial Revolution itself, it's been going on in this direction. And this Jan-Feb onwards, when this pandemic has struck us, there's been a totally shift into the kind of training and education which is taking place, especially so in preschoolers and schoolers. Probably for people who are in colleges and higher education, it doesn't hold good that much, but at least for school level, this is the first time such a different or a paradigm change has taken place. Thank you so much, ma'am. And just a small announcement for our esteemed audiences. Please shoot your questions in the chat box, either on Zoom or on Facebook Live, and we'll try and answer them, even though we have very little time left. Maybe at 12:25, we'll wind up this talk and take question answers for about 5 to 10 minutes. And now I hand you over to Sachin Dhakate, who's our co-founder also. One question what has come to my mind based on the talk which we've had for the last 1 hour, Sachin, is how do you think activity-based learning is happening in this new normal? I mean, when I say new normal, I would mean in the online curriculum training, which is going on currently.
Right. Thank you, Surya sir. Thank you so much. Am I audible?
Absolutely. Clear.
Yeah.
Clear.
I would like to thank all the panelists. They have elaborately spoke about the psychological impact on the stakeholders. Then Palak ma'am reminding me of Stephen Covey of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and Sumit Prakash ji completely talking about out of the box about the role of education and the teachers. And right, so I want to take you back on what is online. So primarily when we talk about online, this online word has come from telephony. So when we, when the first call was made, and he was said, sir, dusre line pe that particular person was, right? So that's from there, the online portion, you need to have a sender and a receiver, a transmitter and a receiver at the same time. That's what the online meant was. So when we talk about online, so online education is not new to India, in fact, to the world, where we talk about, when we were childhood studying in schools. At the time also, UGC was running a Doordarshan channel, they used to show half an hour and 1 hour program every afternoon. So that's where, if you date back 25, 30 years back, the online education was available at that time also, but we were not calling it online, right? Because that's primarily was the one-way communication. Like it was only the transmitting of it, right? So when we talk about this pandemic, primarily most of the schools, most of the parents misconstrue it as a one-on-one session and live session. But online education is not only live session, it is about how do you engage the student through these wired mediums. So when we talk about wired mediums, it can be through television, it can be through radio, it can be through live streaming, or it can be an offline. When we say offline, it's a self-learning program where the child can register, go to the website of the school, and as and when he has time, he can learn. Students in remote areas are learning through SMSs, through where the questions and the assessments are sent through SMS or WhatsApp. So if there is data connectivity issue, the question papers or the concepts are sent through SMSs. So that is also an online education. So online education is not only about putting a live lecture on Google or Zoom or any other medium. Apart from that, a lot of people uses the free subscriptions like Google, say, WhatsApp calling and things like that. But if you look at from a technology perspective, I'll give you an angle that nothing is free in this world, right? So when we talk about the things, nothing is free. And if it is free, then we are the customers. We are the product. So we are the product to sell. You talk about Google, you talk about Facebook. Everything is free, but we are the product. Where our data, our behavior, our if you are searching certain online program, suddenly you will be flushed with a lot of online advertisements of the education product, right? So when we talk about online, it is not about the live classes. It is about how do you control the conceptual learning. So when we talk about conceptual learning, it is through various mediums. It is through activity-based learning. It is through the pedagogy or the content that we have in the school in various boards. So as the panelists have said, we have to be facilitators. At the same time, I would like to add that, we are not there to complete the curriculum in the online segment. So my request to all the schools, all the educationists is that if somebody is trying to complete the curriculum through online medium, I think then there needs to be a shift. And that's where the new education policy is talking about. It is talking about conceptual learning. So when we talk about conceptual learning, they are talking about number identification, whether to make sense out of that number through computational skills and understanding the alphabetical needs and recognizing alphabets. That's primarily the aim at the lower end. And when we move on to higher, they are talking about building the life skills. Now, life skills, making them employable. So how do we make them employable? Through, and that's where the online education through activity learning plays a very, very important role. So when we talk about activities, now a teacher who is struggling to pass on the communication through in the offline classroom, in the regular setup of the classroom, she can very well test each and every child's diction, pronunciation, storytelling abilities through online medium. And because online, I guess, is the best medium where you can ask a child, every one of us are speaking to each other and we can understand, okay, how that particular ma'am or particular sir is speaking about, and how are the speaking styles, listening style. You can give auditory 2 minute clips and the student can comprehend that. So we'll talk about the listening skills about it. So, and you give a topic and ask the child to narrate a particular story, right? So that's how you build those cognitive skills. You build those conceptual understanding, and online medium can help you understand that. If you talk about maths, you can talk about the concept called, say for example, let's take an example of cycling, right? Cycling is a very beautiful example. Now, cycling, you can talk about physics, you can talk about rotations, you can talk about revolutions, right? You can talk about tire pressure. You also can talk about the radius of the tire, right? You can talk about the diameter of the tire. You can talk about, like, if 2 rotations are completed in 2 minutes by one person, and 4 rotations are completed in 2 minutes by another person, you can talk about the concept of LCM. How after how many revolutions they will be together. Or so those kind of concepts can be taught in the activity-based learning. Not only that, when we talk about what is activity-based learning, activity-based learning is kind of an hands-on learning activity, where when we talk about hands-on, you talk about do it yourself. There are various types of learners. There are auditory learners. There are photographic learners. There are people, those who learn by doing things. People, those who have to write 2-3 times, and then only the concept they can understand the things. Then there are kinesthetic learners who can learn by doing things. So when we do a certain thing, that retention is there for life. How many of you, if I may ask you, Dr. Sharma, what was the last time that you have ride a bicycle?
probably 3-4 years, but then I understood your which way you're pointing. I can still take a bike, or even for that matter, a helicopter. I can still go and start flying it without having to have any training for that, because it's already there in my system.
Absolutely. Now you beautifully answered my question. You know, so that's precisely the activity-based learning is. You know, you don't need to, when you talk about like last 6 years, I might not have ride a bicycle, but today if somebody gives me a bicycle, I will just put a pedal and start riding it. That's the beauty of activity-based learning. So when we talk about activities in terms of mathematics, in terms of blended uh, learning, that's how the activity will play a very important role. So when you talk about the online learning, uh, I still remember a group discussion topic which was given by when I had went for an IIM Bangalore interview, and that topic was given to us that child is the parent of the family. So that was the topic given to us in a group discussion, that child is the parent of the family. And if you talk about the online aspect, today the child is actually the parent, where if you give a mobile to a child, I'm damn sure that the child will explore a lot of features better than the parents. Not only that, they will know how to complete the activities online, Google Sheets, Google Forms. That's how the teachers are doing it. you know so so that is where the beauty of online is. But at the same time, uh, the fun is how to build the model, the fun is how to build the product. Today we unfortunately are in pandemic, but we are exploring about the activity based learning in terms of coding, in terms of robotics. So earlier it was all set for offline, but today you have a blended approach where you give the lectures online. You actually can perform, the teachers can perform, make the model, take a video shoot and put up on their YouTube channels. So schools should definitely look at putting their own YouTube channels where they have activities recorded and put up on their own channels, and then you can do it as a private channel. So you should, as a school, you should or as a teacher, you should have your own private channels of YouTube, and then those activities can be shared. And when the school reopens, when the physical classroom starts happening, the student is already set with the conceptual understanding, and you can just ask them to construct the model. And at the same time, with this infrastructure available to you, you can use the same models, same videos, where even when the schools are offline. So then what happens, you have a tool for online and you have a tool for offline as well. So that's how the activity based learning should be looked at.
Yeah, Sachin, thank you so much. I think we are running badly, very badly behind time. But you mentioned something about blended learning. So let's start taking on questions. Anand Natikar asks, do you think online education can be a total substitute for brick and mortar schools? This is where the blended learning came in. So if you could kindly answer this question. Can this online education substitute brick and mortar schools?
Okay. So online, when we talk about online, as I said, online is cannot be a substitute for a brick and mortar school. As I said, because the students' psychological needs, collaborative learning has to be taken into practice. At the same, what we have to understand is that certain aspects are well dealt with in online classroom, and certain aspects are dealt with offline classroom. Online classroom, as I said, is not new to the education system. We had distance learning when we were still Indira Gandhi Open University. Then IGNO is Indira Gandhi. Then Yashwantrao Chavan Open University, Osmania University has a lot of distance learning programs. But what happens when we talk about the online? So online is also like a lot of foreign universities are doing online courses, right? But the way you collaborate in the offline model, where you talk about doing real life examples, those cannot be replaced by online model. But today we have to understand that online will be 70% and offline will be 30%. Right now, we are in a situation where we are on 100% online, right? then slowly and steadily it will shift. And when the schools start opening, when the colleges start opening, it will be 70% offline and 30% online is what I believe.
That's a good one. I feel it would be around 50-50 or maybe 40-60, but then it's still there for us to see. It's a very bit into the future. Probably in June 2021, we'll realize as to how it is going. One very good question from Ranjana, I think can be pointed towards Sumit ji. She says there are some 450 million persons having normal, that is, I think, since I come from background of smartphone manufacturing, she says normal phone, which would mean feature phone. There are 450 million people with feature phone and not smartphones without internet. These people are, their kids are out of the education delivery system. How will these kids be taught? Since you also address underprivileged children, so I think this is the right question for you.
Thank you, sir. So as I spoke about it earlier, we can use the funnel effect, which is if you can set up a school in that area with all its components of a Wi-Fi school, with the laptops, with the hardware, software, the delivery of the content, then you can bring these people to that place. If you do not have the ability to reach their houses differently, then each locality or each district or each place can be set up with a school which can bring in kids to this place. Now, ATL, Atal Tinkering Lab, that's exactly what it functions on, that premise, that you get a funding from the government, you set up a lab in a place where you can actually cater to, at least a radius of say 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers radius, and then you can bring all these children to one place. And that's kind of works. It works well because then you have one place which can, answer to so many more kids, rather than going to everybody's house who don't have the capability to reach or derive this benefit.
That's a good one. In fact, I think this should be conveyed to the government, or at least the state. Since it's a state subject, it should be conveyed to the states so that they can take it on. And we'll just have two more questions, one for Palak ma'am and one for Sridevi ma'am. This one is for Sridevi. How can we engage kids and make them creative in this pandemic situation, as most of the time they are locked indoors? This is from Mr. Ramarao. You'll have to be brief, ma'am. We are already 3 minutes beyond time, so if you can just answer this in a couple of minutes.
Yes. I think parents and schools, the teachers, we have done a small pilot project to understand how children will respond during this pandemic. So if the parents have the facility of, browsing something on the web and trying to connect, giving the children the small tasks that they can achieve, and something that is connected to their home environment, then the children will be, responding very well. For example, now during the pandemic, when we have the entire world focusing on hygiene aspects or expressing gratitude, a simple activity of the parent asking, whom do you want to thank and for what? We have so-and-so in our relatives or our friends. So shall we do an activity where, let us call them up, and then we can, involving the child in a discussion of whom do they want to call and how do they have to. So these sort of creative activities where the child can express and emotionally connect with people, gratitude expression, that is very much suitable. Or it's a simple one as what are the hygienic practices that each one of us are following. So whatever age group the children are, it might be the youngest children at home or the high school children. Give them some topics that are related and are possible that can be done at home. Maybe we can also ask them to get involved in cooking. As Mr. Sachin has told, the cooking involves a lot of mathematics also, understanding about the ingredients, what flavors and all. So helping the mom, and then trying and assessing how much quantity, and trying to imitate a television anchor because there are so many food channels. So these all will be creating a lot of excitement in the children. Or when there is online purchase going on for the essentials, can we involve the children of, giving them the task, whatever age group might be, what are the requirements? Go ask your mom, what are the different things that she needs? How much do we have to purchase? What could be the probable bill? these sorts of activities will engage the children where math is involved, trying and understanding logically is involved, and then they'll have a sense of achievement when they do such type of creative activities. So the simple things at home, cooking, or expressing gratitude, having wonderful interactions even during the recreation activity that you have. You watch a movie and then you try and analyze a character. What are the settings? What are the observations of the child? How what are the small intricacies that are involved? What is the opinion of a particular character? Who has liked which character? And what happened in the story? What would you do if you were the particular character? So there's so many resources available at home itself during the pandemic, where you can engage various age groups of children, where this sort of an interaction can be facilitated, and the child will have will definitely feel good about the involvement that the parent is the interaction and the involvement with the parent, especially in all the activities. It could be, when we think about creative aspects and the child on a daily basis, what should we mainly focus on reflection is, one is their language abilities. It could be the mother tongue, but what sort of pleasantries that they use when they're interacting with their parents, how calm you can be for half an hour, what are the different words that you want to use, what do you want to talk about, what is a object that you like in the living room, or how do you want to expressing about different objects, or how can you actually change the setting of the living room, what would you prefer. Such type of creative activities at home can engage the children during this pandemic. The television, whether it is a rural or the urban area, is a wonderful medium where parents also can get good thoughts. We have tried a small activity where, during the summer vacation, to understand how children will respond for this online education also, just giving them awareness about various countries, the culture, the dressing up, the language, and asking the children, can we pick up some words from that? Can we talk some 2, 3 sentences? What would you like to talk, if at all? Exposing them to the culture, conducting various discussions, maybe different destinations, even if it is an amusement park, show them that, and then ask them what actually impressed you. If I take you after the pandemic, what would you prefer first? What next would you be doing? So this sort of activities where already on the web and on the television you have. So everything can be connected. Your house, the objects, the people, everyone. We should just think in a creative manner of how do we meet the emotional needs of the children? How do we enhance the creativity? How do we make them feel good? How do we engage them? I think there's several activities like that will make them think logically, enhance the mathematical or numerical skills, then learn good language, their own mother tongue and the official language, and maybe a foreign language, and then connecting with all the relatives. So the value orientation. So this is a beautiful time for the parents to open a golden chapter, the connect and the interaction that they have.
Thank you so much, ma'am. We're going 10 minutes beyond time.
Okay.
Others would probably have other commitments. My timekeeper, Sachin, can you give me one more question, or should we wind up? I have to thank the panelists and audience also in the same time.
Palak ma'am, I think there is one question.
Yeah, I have one question for Palak ma'am, if you permit. Basically, ma'am, one of the audience, Vijay Talapati, asks, how much is enough? Be it teaching kids more and more and more, when is enough? In the sense, in the school, you have fixed time, the kids move out from school, everything is over till the next day. So how much do you think is enough for the kids?
I think let's not be judgmental. We are in a times of uncertainty, and whatever and however is possible in the resources that are available. See, even the government is saying we'll rationalize the syllabus. So I think this is a time to take one day at a time. Do not run over completing courses or providing too much of information. I think school does not focus on that because they know the outcomes, right? So they do not. I think what happens at home, parents are more anxious that, they're not going to school, only 1 hour of study and this and that. So I think take it easy. It's okay to take it one day at a time as of now. Don't push them for many things. As Sridevi ma'am said, that there are many activities, many things that you can involve and evolve the child with yourself. And as Sachin said that child is the parent of house. So try and learn life. Don't rush into courses. It's okay. We are not here to provide degrees for everything, or mark sheets for everything. I think it's the time wherein you should just control your anxiety and not push in your children. Just give it time. Take it one day at a time. It's not that difficult. How much you yourself have to evaluate as a parent, how much you want to give it to your child and in what kind of way. So I think school is doing enough job. I think that much is great enough. Otherwise, please involve and evolve your child in the activities as Sridevi ma'am said.
Yeah,
I think that's enough to say.
I think to sum it up, I think three stakeholders will have to sit together: the government, the teachers, the schools, and the parents. And then eventually we'll have to evolve as to how much is enough. That's a good one, ma'am. Yeah. I think we have done, there are a lot of questions for the audience. My request would be, please go to Skillsutra's website, www.skillsutras.com, and ask your questions there. We will send it to the concerned panelists and get back to you at the earliest. Thank you so much for joining us, all the audience. And before I end, I must thank each and every one of the panelists for coming here, spending so much time. In fact, the fact that we are going so much behind time means that there's so much